Welcome to the Magic in the Cloud podcast, where exceptional visionaries reveal the personal journeys behind their remarkable success. This is a conversation with leaders who've transformed industries by navigating pivotal moments, making bold decisions, and cultivating extraordinary teams. We explore the turning points that define their careers, those instances where intuition met strategy and everything changed. It's an intimate look at the leadership philosophies that drive revolutionary outcomes, with cloud solutions as the quiet enabler. Here are your hosts, Joseph Griffith and Ryan Golombeski.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Magic in the Cloud. My guest today, a resilient leader who transformed a childhood marked by severe adversity into a career spanning corporate program management, technology consulting, and now inspirational coaching. She has decades of experience in ERP and SaaS projects and a real personal commitment to trauma healing, holistic wellness, and real human connection. Matter of fact, I think every time we talk, we feel like we could go off hours. It's pretty cool. She's on a mission to try and bridge the gap between professional excellence and personal healing, which is totally cool. With that, everybody, meet my guest, Sonia. Sonia, welcome to Magic in the Cloud.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Awesome. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
You built a career around program management, consulting, but then you stepped into this, I'll call it trauma-informed coaching and holistic wellness. Arguably, right? Arguably all your life, but you kind of formalized it recently. But talk to us about how those two worlds intersect and how they work well together.
Well, it's interesting coming here and really understanding in Miami. I'm now living in Miami and understanding more about the community and really holistic wellness and truly natural wellness. How these two things intersected with the trauma healing and wellness is we tend to really overlook in our careers a lot of triggers that happen during your work life, or whether you work for a small company, a large company, and a lot of these things depend upon what happened to you or what's happening to you. So I really wanted to help others and intersect those two of wellness, how to have a wellness life balance, work-life balance, and overall wellness, and also look at those past triggers or current triggers. They all intertwine.
They do all intertwine. And in our previous conversations, we were talking about you being on the show. I think I shared some of my own personal experiences. And you just reminded me of how up until maybe 35, fear of getting fired, not being number one, not being approved, was it probably 90% of my motivation for doing well. And I was a top performer. And I found a way through some healing to remove that. It took me 3 months to find new motivation to get things done. That's how powerful fear was. Mm. And so, and I'm super grateful for the support and help I got there, because I replaced that with more positive, self-healed motivation. So it's a big reason why, and I think a lot of our guests struggle with that. And we both know that it's not typically part of the training and support that you get on the job.
No, it's not. And that's really why when I started this business, I really wanted to focus on three main focus areas: the wellness, the trauma, but then intersecting that with the corporate. I was just on a client call, intro call, hopefully it will be a client, and this morning, and where they're at, because I meet clients where they're at in those areas, is really all about the stress of work and how to work in these environments in 2025 where you're working nonstop and have a work-life balance. So that's the area but again, it all integrates what's happening in your stress and when you're stressed at work, and is is causing your health, and it's causing, maybe some triggers, and maybe there's some things that you need to uncover and learn about yourself. Maybe there's some tool sets that you can use, and that's what I try to help clients with.
Yeah, and looking back at, say, your ERP projects, which I'm guessing we're going back to early 2000s. Not that you don't do it these days, but I think you and I both lived that dream. Um, if we say, like, I'm curious as to what's changed from the early 2000s when you and I were being told to implement ERP in 6 months instead of 18. Um, what's different now? Like, what are the other skills and traits that you've learned that helped you adapt better than, say, what we went through back in the early 2000s?
Oh, that's a great question. Listen, I started back then in it was male dominated, and me being a female in technology, that was my first time understanding the challenges.
Yeah.
So different. The landscape, there really wasn't a female mentor or someone I could look up to. So I got thrown into an environment where they were all technical, all, not to be judging, but the technical IT guys. And I had to insert myself and quickly adapt and learn how to be successful in that environment. And it was not easy. I'm not going to tell you
Hmm.
this was easy. This
Yeah.
was a learning experience. And I would say those first few years taught me so much about how to work within a technology environment as a female, what worked, what didn't. And, I really did learn also, even though I went in so aggressive because I wanted to be the man. I wanted to be taken seriously. So I went in and I really just went in and talked about work. It was work, work, work. So I went in and they respected me on that. But what I also learned was that it's okay to sit back and have a little ease. It's okay to be in a project meeting, or you're looking at requirements, or you're helping the technology team work on enhancements. And it's okay to be there and to lead them through it, but also have a little ease in your conversation, and not be so focused on black and white. It's about work only. So I really did those first few years. And what I think has definitely changed in the years is the work environment drastically changed, where we actually had lunch hours back then. That's not even something that I don't even know a company does anymore, anybody. And especially if you're working hybrid remote, there's a 5-minute lunch eating while you're on calls. The work life has just tremendously changed. The pressure has changed. So in that sense, the stress has evolved to a point of maxing out someone's wellness. Uh, so different. I mean, I'm sure you remember we could actually have a full lunch and go out and eat lunch with coworkers.
Well, we were all super, super excited if we could take an hour and a half.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I remember when we could do it in 50 minutes. Travel 4 or 5
Hmm.
people in a car, get there, wait in line, pay for it, eat, get back in time, and we perceived that helped us mitigate stress. I think back, and I think there have been a couple of times in my career where that was the case, that we just kind of set work down for a while. But as time went on, it was like, hey, now that we're all here together, why don't we talk work again? So yes, I do remember those days well, and I think you make a great point that ironically we think that working remote has gotten easier. Arguably, it's put a requirement on you to be more available. Yeah.
Correct.
Now, are you saying that your aggressiveness, let's call it, like, the male assertive testosterone type thing, you went in with that first, saying if I'm aggressive, I'll fit in with the boys, and then your natural ability to be vulnerable, probably because you led with aggressiveness, maybe your vulnerability became an attraction. And I mean as a coworker, not to say guys, gals, but do you feel that worked So was it then became to your advantage? Like, look, I can be as tough as the rest of you. By the way, let me lead the way and show you how to chill out once in a while.
Yeah, I think it was also, yes, I think I I learned that I got more done if I relaxed and just look, not take took everything so seriously. I think
Yeah.
maybe is more of taking every moment of every workday in a work environment so seriously, where no, I it's okay to set the table and have people joke, because I think men and women want to converse and have conversation in their meeting that are not only about work. So once I figured that out, and growing up, I didn't have many good teachers. So I had to figure that out by trial and error. Oh, okay. I notice I'm getting more reception. I'm getting people to want to engage with me more if I'm just and I think that's where I just naturally became, my personality started to come out, where I'm a little entertaining. I ended up at the UAT throwing candies to enthuse and motivate the team, when they got a training right, on one of the modules. I got to show that personality, and it became, oh, okay, it's okay. That's a good thing. That works.
That's really great advice, even today's day and age. I think it's a really good piece of advice for our listeners to say, hey, when you jump into something, you got to take it serious. You got to be assertive. You need to be aggressive. And if you think about it, right, whether it's work or if you're playing a sport or you're meeting a new family, friends and all that, if you take it seriously and you show commitment, etc., then you kind of earn the right then to kind of fall back and not be yourself, but once you show that you care through that seriousness, assertiveness, then you kind of earn the right to joke around a little bit and fall back to just be more vulnerable and more. I'm sorry, I'm at a loss for words for this one, but um, you just reminded me of a bunch of different places where I think folks, especially who are younger, need to remember that. Like, hey, go in serious. Guys are guy dominated or not. Earn the respect, and then you can fall back and show some of your other qualities that make you more of a welcoming type person on the team. Did I say that? I didn't really say that really
No,
well,
that
but
that that's I yes, that is what I did, and I learned that, and I kept that through the rest of my career, because I it was a great learning point when you're starting out.
yeah. So
Reading
tell
the
me,
room, understanding the audience.
yeah, say that again. I'm sorry I interrupted
So
you.
it's I was able to read the room and assess it, and then play with it and have some testing, like a test and learn back then. And I was so young, but I said, "Oh goodness, I'm noticing that people seem a little bit more uptight with me. Okay, what if I relax and show more of my personality and be more real? Oh, okay, they're laughing, they're joking, they want to be a part of my testing team, they want us to implement. Okay, they want me to go to their store upon go live and help them fix issues. I'm getting actual people who are wanting me to be in their office to help them with post go live issues. Okay, it's about being yourself. And yes, like you said, go in, show that you're dedicated, show that you're there to do the work, but also, uh, you can be yourself and still have all that respect.
Yeah. So I want you to get ready to tell me a story and think about the biggest challenge, the most resistant um, team client you had, and share with us what was going on and how you overcame that.
Well, there's so many. There's so many
I get it.
stories.
There are a lot. There can be a lot, for sure.
Uh, I would say one story that stands out, because it also is something, a personal motto of mine is positivity and the power of positivity. There was a project to develop a new website, and I came in to manage all the areas, and it wasn't just the digital side. It was every integration back-end system. It was the warehousing team. It was, new shipping partners. So it was extremely complex. And these were all new processes as well as procedures to actually stand up, as well as some new product. So it was very much a very large program, and there were so many people involved that the power of positivity had to stay within. And it was very challenging because you're dealing with all these different areas, and within many areas, there were stakeholders that just didn't have the belief that it could be done. And one person would speak on a meeting, and then that would get someone else energized to the negativity, and it just snowballed. And I felt like I was playing whack-a-mole every day because I was attending every meeting across all the functional areas. So I'd get done with finance, and I'd feel they were good, and then I would go into another call, and then digital call, and then I would I would constantly be playing this, and this went on for so long. However, there were some key people who bought into the same idea of power of positivity, and this is so important because you as the leader has to maintain that calmness and that positive energy. You can go on the side to your superiors and have your stand-ups and your open spaced calls where you're figuring it out, but in front of the entire team, you need to be composed and show that we're going to get through this and this positivity, because you let some of those negative people go, and it will be a snowball effect, and then everybody will be negative, and then that is when you can't pull yourself out and be successful. So this particular one was that way along the entire way, even through testing, even through the deployment phase. And once we got live those first 2 days, it was, I think everybody realized, okay, we did it. We could do it. But I think that was one that comes to mind. Now, I've had a lot of projects and a lot of implementations that were very much similar to that. But this one in particular stood out because the number of areas and number of people that would turn on a negative face one day, and you had to align them again and realign.
So I think if I'm playing that back, in the first week or two of this project, you had so much negativity at all levels that you played whack-a-mole for 2 weeks, and then you're saying that the whack-a-mole approach worked, because the whack-a-mole approach included knock it off. Here's a better way to process things. Knock it off. Here's a better way to process things. So whack-a-mole worked, or did you? I'm curious. Did you have to wind up having like the classic, go back to the top, talk to the CEO, talk to the C-suite, and say, look, get your act together? How much did you have to do that versus maybe not? Because I think whack-a-mole is a great idea. Sometimes whack-a-mole is the way to do it.
Actually, that never had to happen, but
Nice.
just being consistent, and it was way more than 2 weeks, but just me being consistent with, and that's the one thing I always say is the most important, is your communication plan, how you're leading your meetings and how you're making your communications. So through my consistency of every week, putting the project plan and the path there for everyone in the meetings and on emails, and showing the path forward and showing the successes, nobody could deny that we were having successes. So the people that just didn't want to believe because they didn't want it to happen could not continue to resist. So it was just that power of always highlighting the positive, always communicating, showing progress, that eventually all of that didn't kind of got alleviated, and we were very successful. But very challenging if you don't confront it, and you don't have the courage to, as a leader, to really continue to play that whack-a-mole and be consistent with your communications, because those maybe 2-3 people can go to that CEO and then convince them that the project's not going to work. And then the project completely gets derailed and stops.
Yeah. So now the next two questions, I want to start to make a shift, which for you and me is exciting, but I think for a lot of other people could be quite sensitive. And that is, let's start to make the shift from work and how we deal with emotional intelligence and being authentic and triggers, right? That's the first question, I think, gets us there. And the second one shifts us over to personal. So you offer some consulting around how emotional intelligence and authenticity can play roles in corporate leadership. And you just gave a really good example about how you stayed with it and it made a difference and it shifted the project. So let's first talk about the kind of things you offer to companies on a corporate side. And then my second question, you can kind of go from hey, here's what I do, but let's go to the personal side. How often in that training, when you coach individuals or teams, do you wind up saying, hey, all this workplace conflict might have something to do with some deeper personal triggers? So to me, this is the sensitive part of the discussion where a lot of people are going to be like, whoa, it's nothing. It's not me personally, but you and I both know, yeah, it is. So what do you do to help it? What's the sales, the elevator pitch to the corporate? And then how do we get to a place where, hey, maybe some of your upbringing figured in all this?
Yeah, so for corporate, really, a lot of these corporations today need someone, and I go into speaking engagements where I can talk to large groups or just regular teams or divisions or companies that aren't working like a well-oiled machine. What are tips and what are things that they can do to get there? How can you lead with excellence? How can you have your teams working together? We are complex beings. We are humans. We all have our own lives, our own ups and downs, our own challenges. What are those secret pieces that you can use in your companies and your teams to create that success? And there are some, and they do work. And also, I also speak about leading with kindness. That is my leadership style. Why is that so important and so important today? How can that translate to even more revenue with your company? And it can. I'm such a proponent of that. Let's stop the dictatorship. Let's stop that, top down, and let's work as people together. And what are those special things that maybe C-suites might not even understand? As an employee sitting there with 500 people in an office, what are those really important things that you could do that would literally change the motivation of those employees to be, oh gosh, this is a job, I'm not getting recognition, my boss isn't listening to me, to, oh my gosh, I am so motivated, I want to work in this company, I want to implement these projects. There's so much there that I like to teach and speak about and coach. And then you talked about segueing into the personal. I mentioned we're human beings, we're complex. Well, that touches on the personal. I wish that we couldn't bring some of the things we do into our work environment, but we're not built that way. We're not robots yet. We are human beings. There's a TV show called Severance that I've watched that plays a storyline that you go into work and you are in the basement and you take the elevator up, and then once you reach your floor, your outer life is completely erased. And
Mm-hmm.
we don't live in that world. That's an interesting concept, but so we have to address that. And clients I work with, I ask those questions, and we can work in a private space one-on-one about does that person remind you of somebody, or why are you so upset because that person triggered you? Why are you so upset? Is it the person, or is it, well, it's because I was bullied as a child, and I'm making this up. I was bullied as a child, and this is what they said, and this
Mhm.
coworker of mine said the exact same thing. There you go. There's why you need to investigate and go a little bit deeper into the personal side.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I know that when we started the conversation today, I mentioned the fear factor. And in my personal upbringing, um, I was raised to speak my mind and what's important to me only when everyone else's needs were taken care of.
Mhm.
And in theory, right, then that never happens. There's always a boss that's not going to be happy enough. There's always a peer that's going to feel like you're being unfair. There's always a client who's going to feel like you didn't deliver. So it was a never ending cycle of fear of getting fired, getting rejected, not making the all-star team, whatever it might be. And then I mentioned, once I did some work on that, I replaced it with things like, hey, I want to see success here. I want to be able to share in the contribution to the success and have that be the validation. And I think a lot of people today just aren't really. I think a lot of people. I don't know that they're not aware, but maybe they're not. I don't know. I'll ask you. When you talk to people and you get down to the individual level, do you feel like more people know that they've got some upbringing that's kind of getting in the way? Or do more people know and acknowledge it, or do most people pretend say they don't know and they won't acknowledge it? Like, how easy or hard is it for you to uncover that, especially when you're in a corporate situation?
I think it's opening up the conversations now, but I think no, I don't think we ever talked about it prior. I think in the last few years, people are starting to talk about it a little bit more in their background. So that's why I really, my business model is really not about uh, let's talk about those things. I meet the client where they're at there. They may start out talking about and wanting help with their work life. Just I'm not able to do the work that I'm doing. I'm making this up, but as an
Yep, I get
example.
it.
And then through sessions, they might be having something go on within their life that causes them to open up a little bit more. So I think it's staying with a coach for a while and then delving into that area. Not many will start out with I have this serious issue, personal. I don't know how to handle it. It usually comes up after a while, and that's rightfully so. You have to trust the person. You have to feel comfortable to open up. Uh, so yeah, I'd say that's usually what happens.
Yeah. So let's talk about you a little bit more. Where did you grow up? And on a more sensitive note, with all the adversity you've been through and the inner strengths you had to develop and the instincts, what where'd you grow up? And with all that background, share with us the instincts, the skills that you developed early on that helped that you relied on the most to get where you are today.
Well, I grew up in the Midwest, in the Bible Belt, and I grew up under extreme situation where at a very, very young age, I had a lot of trauma within the immediate household. And it was multiple things going on, from my father, from domestic abuse, my father, doing a lot of that, to other things that are definitely more sensitive and personal. And I had two parents and a sibling. So it was four of us. And I was the one that was never supported or taken care of. And I voiced my issues and nothing was ever done. So around age 6 and 7, I kind of learned how to stand up on my own 2 feet. and know that I had to protect myself and try to find ways to do that. So that inner, whatever it was, I do know that I have at a young age confidence, and I've always had confidence. I've always had that, but it's more than just confidence. It was that ability, that grit. It was just like this inner thing in me at that age that I'm going to make it. I'm going to continue to walk through, where others that's the core. I think that personality. If I didn't have that, I honestly would not have survived. No way would I be here today.
I think thanks for sharing. I know it's a pretty sensitive place for you. I really do appreciate it, and I know the audience does, especially the folks in the audience. And I always feel like it's way more than you think. You know, we often feel like we're in this boat by ourselves, and either sadly or in a comfortable way. Sad in that, you know, you don't want to see anybody else in that boat, but in a comfortable way, like, hey, it's not just you. It's nice to have that other folks around to help. And I believe, I think you were getting right at that grit. I believe it's that skill of survival, right? It's just like, hey, there's I can't take another step back, right? I'm at the edge of the cliff, and really powerful for a young girl at age 6 or 7 to develop that. So I'm proud. Like I respect you for that. Yeah, you know, it's kind of tough to ask a 6 or 7-year-old to learn how to survive at that age, right? I think that's another conversation you and I could have another day about how survival, literal survival, supported where we are today. So thanks for sharing that. You did mention in our earlier conversation that you hung out in Costa Rica. It was Costa Rica, I think, right, for a while?
Yes. Yes.
Talk to me about Costa Rica and how that impacted life.
Yes, that was, I would say, one of my true pivotal turning points in my life. We just touched upon the youth and growing up, and by age 15, I was not in a good place, and for some reason, that grit did not want me to become a runaway or homeless, which a lot of people, maybe in my situation, would have. But I was at school, high school, and I saw a poster in the library that said, "Could youth study abroad program for a year?" And that survival, that I need to get into an environment that's safe. It just clicked. And the beautiful story that you can show on your resume and the business community for years and is you studied abroad for a year in high school, and it helped your
Sure.
education and it helped you
Yep.
thrive in your career and all of that. And that's what the pretty side of what people see. What people really don't see is the untold story. Is that was my way to get out of extremely abusive environment for years and years. And at 15, I said, it stops here. And I did everything I could to get there. I developed my first, and I didn't even understand that, my first project plan, my first action plan. How am I going to sell this? How am I going to sell this concept to the parents? And I figured it out. And it was a mission. It wasn't easy back then to say you're going to leave. I just turned 16 years old and left. And
Holy
was there
crap.
for a year. So,
Yeah. 16.
and again, think of the environment I was in.
Yeah.
Were they really willing to let me go? So it was a lot of figuring out how to sell. So my sales, I was selling. I was able to talk to and call from that poster on that library, call the number, and somehow I sold them that, look, this is what I want to do. And they said, oh, we are actually going to be speaking at the end of a junior achievement meeting. And junior achievement is all about, coming together and helping the kids and helping the kids excel. So they have their meetings, but this youth program was going to talk and, show that, hey, we have a study abroad program for you you students. You might want to apply. So somehow I got them to agree. I will somehow get my parents there. Could you talk to them? And could you sell them on this concept? And I did. So that year I was able to go, and I was in the most critical point of this story is I was able to be safe for a year.
Yeah.
I was able to not have any abuse for a year. I was able to be a kid for 1 year, my 16th year. Amazing. And it gave me hope because I lived with a host family, which means I lived with a mom, I lived with a dad, I lived with a brother, I lived with a sister, and I saw what real, like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. They love each other. We're doing things together. So I got so much that I didn't even understand until I came back, that there's so much hope. You can have a wonderful, fulfilling life. And this is what real families are like.
Yeah, thanks for that's really powerful. So the underlying motivation was get out for a year.
Yeah.
And you had to convince a zillion other people of why it was a good thing, and nothing to do with your motivation or your reason. You had to do that, and as much as in the short term it was get out from underneath all that, look at the gift of being around a quote normal family situation. Which, by the way, how good was their English, or did you have to learn Spanish?
Oh no, I had to learn Spanish. They didn't really speak. Only one person's, and it wasn't even inside my family, spoke a little English. But
Nice.
no, I got dropped in, and the family was beautiful. They were great to me. And to this day I still speak Spanish, and the reason I speak Spanish is because of that year, not because I studied it anywhere else.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks for sharing that. So let's take this personal history, and we'll at the end we'll talk a little bit about how people can reach you, and you've got the I don't know, that the more traditional job stuff, right? Which is your project management, program management, business analyst type work in the IT world. But I kind of want to stay on the, these experiences and how they've shaped you and led you to start this business to help folks around corporate culture. So if you could, for the audience, kind of share maybe a little bit of vision here. If you could think of one or two or three things that you would change to redesign corporate culture, what might they be?
Well, and this is where I'm going to just have to be honest here. I really feel we are at a breaking point with all of our workplace cultures, workplace environments. And I think HR has to be redesigned, and we need to rethink that. We all here on social media, we all are talking about it. For years we've talked about it. HR is only serving the company. It's out for the interests of the company. Every time somebody leaves or moves or whatnot, we all have coworkers that way. We all have friends that talk about it. We're all talking about it. But who's making a solution to it? Who is solving this? Why can't we rethink it and have HR for division for the company's interest, HR for the people's interest, and somehow be creative enough to think, how can we work together and coexist? And that means a area and division for the people. That means health and wellness, and that means ensuring that you have that work-life balance. It means taking care of your employees so they're not burned out and they're not physically getting cancer. I mean, I worked with someone that was so stressed that eventually had to leave emergency, and there was so much pressure, and this person had to leave and go through some hard times, health wise. I mean, this happens, and not everybody is willing to talk about it. The second thing I do think is we need to be more transparent in the hiring process. Okay, why are we still having so many people hired and they feel like they've been bait and switched, where you get hired and the work environment is so toxic because nobody told you that, or they're working 19-hour days for 7 days straight? Why can't we be more transparent and have, and I'm going to say this, there are some people in cultures that love to work 19-hour days, 7 days a week. Let's have those companies hire those people and those people be at those companies. Let's be open. There are some people that have children, young children that want remote work or want a little bit more balance maybe in the afternoons to pick up their kids. Let's have companies talk about that and hire that. Let's have black and white people go to where they should go to. Why can't we find solutions like that?
Yeah, I mean, and I appreciate you permission to speak freely, right? Like just say, right? I think we got to a place, I know you and I have been around the block for a little bit, but I remember when you could write whatever you want on a folder about somebody, and then all of a sudden you couldn't. And I got to tell you, I don't think I ever wrote anything that was like real derogatory, right? But I would say things like, not a good listener. And then I found out, well, you can't let HR see that. That's a violation, right? And I think that's what's happened with HR, right? You're not pointing the finger at HR. You're saying they've kind of been pigeonholed down to this, serve the company in this space, and everything else is not okay. Like, I don't know why you can't have open conversations about why somebody's not being a good listener, and maybe trace it back to they were never listened to when they were younger, right? It could be that, and the data proves it, right? I probably in the last 5 years have been to 10 discussions where the data shows attraction, retention, overall employee satisfaction, right? And is down. Yet all these conversations I'm having, everybody talks to their success being about the people. So, not the tech, not the this, not the process, not the supply chain. It's all the people. And here's the other crazy thing. As much as I have blamed the generations before, the newer generations, the younger generations, studies still show they still want to be part of companies where they feel valued, where they feel held accountable. It's a little bit of a misnomer that less experienced people don't want to be held accountable. That's actually not true, right? There's just different ways in which they want to be communicated with so that they can be held accountable. Does that make sense? We were talking about how HR has been pitched and narrowed to service specifically the company. You were mentioning that we need to have a support system for the employees. And what I was saying was, you're right. Like, the data around the attraction and retention problem is unbelievable, right? The studies do show that other generations, they still want to be held accountable. They still want to be responsible. They just want to be communicated differently than the way I know I was raised. And that, I was certainly raised in the show up, do a good job, produce, be quiet, be grateful, get there before the boss, and go home after he or she leaves, right? And it worked, but it doesn't work today. And but the issues are still the same, which is the companies say that people are their greatest asset, yet they complain about attraction, retention, and overall employee satisfaction constantly. And I do think I believe it ties back to a lot of things where you can help people, which is, hey, here's some ways to better understand the culture, to improve the culture. Here's some ways to better understand how to, work effectively in the culture. And oh, by the way, there might be some things you can do on your own, right? Your own self-healing that'll make integrating and working with the company culture even better. Make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
All right. Well, so here's my last question, which, again, thanks for being such a. This has been awesome. But my last question is: so, if you could go back and you were talking to your 16-year-old self, what few things would you want her to know?
Oh, if I could go back and tell her that she's loved,
Hmm.
that uh, that it's going to be okay, and you're going to get through this. Those would be the things that I would say. Definitely.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, because I think hope comes to mind, right? It's going to be okay. Have hope. I, like you, when I look back, I think a lot of times I didn't have hope, but I think a lot of times I don't know. I look back and I think I just put it aside. You know, you were talking about grit and grind. Oftentimes, man, when things got rough, it was like, instead of becoming hopeless, I'm like, grit and grind, grit and grind, grit and grind. And I am, and oh, there you go. That's, I think you, like me, you could say, hey, grit and grind will work. It'll stop you from being homeless.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
Because
right.
I'm sure it crossed your mind. Like, it crossed mine. I'm like, and believe me, you and I both have stories. We have stories of like showing up with no place to sleep that night and everything you own in the back of your car. We've all been through that. So that would be great advice for your 16-year-old self.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
those things when, and again, that's a lot of when I have the trust in clients and we can go deeper and we can get to this deeper point. This is where, to me, the true aha transformations come when you can start to uncover these things, because it's a cliche and I know it, that when you talk about being the things that happened to you when you were young or in school or whatever, you could have been in a school shooting, you could have been bullied as a child, you could have been in a bad home environment, but these little things are the things that actually affect you the most, and you don't even know it. Why you're so upset when you see a bully doing that? Well, there's so many things that you can tie back and you can relearn, and that's when true healing and open up and can and you can change. You can change. So
Well, Sonia, I can't thank you enough for being a part of the Magic in the Cloud podcast today. We stress all the time that Ryan and I didn't start this to be a commercial or Cloud 113 or the Salesforce ecosystem. There's plenty of time and place for that. We felt that these types of discussions are the ones that people wanted to listen to and learn from and connect to. And you accomplished that today. So I want to thank you for being on the show. How can people get a hold of you? Please share your contact info.
they can email me at Sonia coaching K. So Sonia coaching K, letter K, and at gmail.com. And you can set up an intro session. You can also, more than happy to connect on Instagram. I have on my Instagram a link to in the bio that you can actually schedule an intro session with me, a complimentary session. So either email or my IG account, which is SONIA 7_305.
Cool. IG.
Instagram.
Oh, geez, I'm
Yes.
not up on. I always say Insta. So Instagram, they got that, producers. Instagram. Sonia, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
For everyone, that's the end of our discussion today. Thank you so much. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and follow and all that good stuff. Thanks for being on the show. And this brings us to an end of another episode, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much.
Yeah,
Bye.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Magic in the Cloud podcast requires more than a conversation. It takes action, research, and collective wisdom. If today's episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear your insights. Join the conversation and help us shape the future together. We'll be back with more stories, strategies, and real-world solutions that are making a difference for everyone. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe, rate, write a review, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.